Yeah, just default to yes with me.
Just 1 minute. It's taking a moment. Here we go. Oh boy, I've got somebody else coming in here. I have to tell them that we're on for a half an hour. Just 1 second. Shalom to everyone. This is Gidon Ariel with my good friend Pastor Alan Latta.
Shalom.
But let me first see if I didn't make a mistake. 1 second. Alan, give them a show and dance while I deal with this issue. How are you doing, Alan? What's going on?
Doing well, doing well. We buried my wife's sister in Maryland on Friday, and we just got back. She was 80, well, 4 days from 80 when she passed. She wanted to be buried at sea, which is a thing. I didn't know. I thought it was just a Navy thing, you know. If you're out at sea, you know, you can't be buried. But she wanted to be buried at sea, and of course you have to pay extra for it. But so legally, it has to be in you can't be embalmed, and it has to be in a biodegradable shroud, and it has to be at least 3 miles from shore in 600 feet of water. Well, where they live, that's 80 miles from shore before you get to that depth. So it's an all-day boat ride, and Coast Guard, because of weather issues, would not give clearance. So 5 weeks later, they decided to
Now's
bury
the time.
her, not fulfill her wishes. So yeah. So anyway, it was a memorable occasion. So we were there a month ago when she passed, or you know, for the memorial service, and then went back a month later for the actual burial. So I was kind of relieved because I was dreading that boat ride because we were going to go back for that, and I'm prone to seasickness. So yeah,
Well, did it work?
it worked. Yeah, yeah, she's in the ground. Yeah.
Or wherever?
Yes, that's right. Her body. Yes, her body is in the ground. Yes.
You said in the ground. You said that she was buried at sea.
She, she wanted to be buried at sea, and it was not possible this time of year. Coast Guard said no. The Coast
So they
Guard.
decided to go against her last wishes.
Yeah, well, she gave conflicted. She also told what she wanted on her gravestone. So, I mean, you can't do both. So, yeah. So she gets the gravestone. So, yeah.
Interesting. So this was your wife's aunt
Her sister, her big sister.
or your wife's sister?
She was like an aunt. She was 13 years older than her. So, yes. Yeah. So that was the most recent adventure. Anyway, how are things there?
Baruch Hashem, things are doing pretty well here. Let's see. Well, are you asking about something specific? What is in the news
No,
nowadays?
no. I mean, there's a sort of a ceasefire happening now, and you've just come through the holidays.
Yes, that's the most important thing. We have two major holiday seasons, a half year apart from each other during the fall and during the spring, right? Yeah. So the spring holiday, of course, is the holiday that is mentioned in the Bible as this is the month of spring for you, which is the holiday of Passover. So
Yeah.
that happens around April or so.
Yes.
But the autumn, the fall holiday happens around now and around September, October, and that is the holiday of Tabernacles of Sukkot. But the holiday of Tabernacles happens about 5 days after Yom Kippur, the fast of I'm not even sure what it's called in Hebrew, in English. Yom Kippur, of repentance. That's not the right word. That's not the word that they usually use. What do you call Yom Kippur in English? There's a
Uh,
word for it. What do you
atonement?
Atonement? That's the word. Yeah, yeah, the fast of atonement.
Yes.
I think there might even be another word for it. And that day is preceded by what some people call the Feast of Trumpets, and we call it Rosh Hashanah. That's not the biblical name for it, but that's the word that we use, which is basically the new year. So we're talking about 26 days of holidays, virtually back to back. And we actually have some of us already a month are preparing for that beforehand with a daily prayer of repentance that lasts about 40 minutes if you say it fast. And we usually say that before the morning service. So we're talking about arriving at the synagogue at about 5:30 in the morning
Okay.
for 40 days. So so that usually we arrive at synagogue closer to about 6:40 or 6:15.
Okay.
Depends on where your synagogue is or what time the services are. I like going to the early services. Some people, when I was younger, then if I could get an 8:30 service, I was happy.
And how long is this coupled with fasting?
So the 40 days of repentance is not necessarily coupled with fasting. There is, like I said, the fast of the Day of Atonement.
Okay.
There is a fast day that we observe the day after Rosh Hashanah, the day after the Feast of the Trumpets. It's called the fast of Gedalia. I don't know if you remember, he's actually mentioned towards the end of the Bible. People don't pay too much attention by then because it's already the day after the denouement, after the big event of the main point of the exile of the end of the Bible. There were still some Jews left in Israel.
Yes.
Jews was not the it's an anachronous name. No, Judeans. Yes, Judeans. So those who were left, there was not Persian, not Babylonian. There was a Babylonian ruler over them, and they decided to appoint a Jewish ruler. I think some might have called him a puppet ruler. I'm not really sure. I don't want to give him less honor than he's due. I'm not,
Figurehead?
huh?
Maybe a figurehead?
Maybe something like that. But some of the more rebellious Judeans who were still in Judah, they assassinated him. He was Jewish.
Oh
His
man.
name was Gedaliah ben the son of Achikam, but he was assassinated. And then the again, I'm saying Persian. If I'm making a mistake here, I apologize. I think it might not have been Persian. I don't remember. But anyway, the um, the ruling country, ruling empire said, "Aha, that's what you're doing here," and that was it. They didn't said no more independence of any sort, even if it's a pretend independence. You're all getting out of here. So they exiled the rest of the Jews, and so for that reason, the Bible. I don't think that the Bible talks about us. I don't think that the Bible talks about establishing a fast day in Gedaliah's memory, but the rabbis established a fast day in uh, in memory, I guess, not so much in memory of Gedaliah, but to remind us all of the terrible things that we did,
Okay.
and that it's required of us to consider it so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So assassinations are one of those pretty bad things that happen. And in fact, interestingly enough, I just heard this morning on the radio for the first time in the season a commercial, or if you will, a public service announcement talking about some event or some sort of commemoration of Yitzhak Rabin, who was the prime minister of Israel, and he was assassinated. As I'm sure you remember,
Right.
they just mentioned today, it's exactly 30 years ago.
Wow.
So there's actually there are actually some people who question it. What is that called? Conspiracy theories. People have some conspiracy theories about his assassination. Very few assassinations do not have conspiracy theories attached to them. But ever since his assassination, things have been complex in certain perspectives here in Israel. And due to other historical, I say historical, sometimes even only 10 years ago or less, things that happened, then there's much controversy going on in Israel, and some controversies die hard. All controversies, I think, die hard. When am I using that term correctly? I'm not only talking about the movie, I'm talking about that they stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, they go down hard. Yeah.
Eh,
Pain.
so so there are some older controversies in Israel that at this point I think they've pretty much simmered down. People don't think that they're that important, that whatever happens, happens, everybody can handle it. But some of the issues that were around in the time of Yitzhak Rabin and were ignited even more because of his assassination are still around with us. Some of them less so.
Okay. Was he in negotiation with Sadat or am I confused with Begin?
You're confused with Begin. Begin negotiated with Sadat.
Sadat got it.
That only took about 2 or 3 years. Again, I might be totally off, but a short time. And that resulted in a peace treaty with between Egypt and Israel, who were Egypt was our most bitter enemy by all means. But Sadat, after Begin was elected, he was uh, on the right of Israel. Most of Israel was led by left-wing leaders for about 30 years, for the first 30 years of its existence, and then Begin was elected to prime minister. He was prime minister only for a short time, I think about 5 years. I think he was reelected once. And but he succeeded in I think at his speech when he was elected prime minister, when he assumed the first time as prime minister, he said, "I am inviting Premier President Sadat of Egypt to the Knesset here." That was crazy. And then Sadat said, "Okay, I'll do it." And so the people in charge of security are saying, "Oh my God, what is this?" And when ultimately Sadat did arrive in an Egyptian plane, and there were snipers, Israeli snipers, aimed at the plane because they didn't know who was going to come out.
Okay.
So luckily they didn't get to use their guns. But ultimately, again, there it is. There it is much controversy. I don't know much, just some controversy regarding the at this point regarding the agreement, the peace agreement between Sadat and Begin. All I will say is that a year or two after the peace agreement was signed, Sadat was assassinated
Yes.
in Egypt. So it takes time. Hold on 1 second. I'm seeing that this guy responded to me.
He can join us. I mean,
Just 1 second. Sorry. Okay, I hope that will be okay. Yes, so I am staunchly placed in the right wing in Israel.
yes.
But I'm also quite open to engaging with the left wing as opposed to so many right wingers and left wingers nowadays that you're not allowed to talk to each other. Isn't that the rule? Isn't that the 35th Amendment to the Constitution? Thou shalt not talk to people who don't think exactly like you.
I shall not agree to disagree about anything. Well, I watched the Knesset meeting where Trump was a guest. Watched the whole thing. Fascinating. Absolutely.
Yeah. it was for us, for me, it was quite enjoyable.
Yes.
Again, Trump is quite the showman.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a member of Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party central committee, and so I'm a strong supporter. That doesn't necessarily follow, but in my case, it definitely follows that I'm a strong supporter of Netanyahu and of most of the leaders and the members of Knesset and the ministers of the Likud in the Knesset. And I thought that that was a very impressive event. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. What a day. What a day it was. Because
That's
not
right. It
long.
was like one day after all of the 20 live hostages were returned, I think, or the same day. I just don't remember. It was
It was,
such an amazing
it was a
period, week or two.
crucial day. And then he flew elsewhere afterwards and had another meeting that wasn't as long. Um, and then never misses a chance to take a pot shot at Biden. Anyway, he is a showman, that's for sure. So yeah.
Yes. So what is going on with you,
Well,
Pastor Latta?
do we have time for a Bible question?
Sure, of course. We have about 14 minutes.
Yeah, we can always return to it later. If it's too big, just say, hey, that's too big, something simpler. But Genesis 15, what happened was absolutely fascinating.
One second. You Christians, you say a number and everybody's supposed to know it off by heart.
I'll just tell what happened. You may
Hold on
not.
one second. Let me first open it up here. Well, I'm glad that you're asking about Genesis 15 because that is this week's portion.
Oh, this is great.
Perfect timing.
So Abram's name has not yet been changed. Circumcision has not yet been instituted. And he is given instructions to split animals, keep keep the birds away, and then he's put to sleep. And then God comes down as a smoking oven and burning torch. So is this the same pillar of fire and cloud that led them through the wilderness? Not necessarily.
It's possible.
Okay.
It's not like somebody said, "Hey, I see the catalog number on that pillar of fire. That's exactly the same one. What do you know?" It's
Yeah.
not who could declare yes, it's the same one. The Bible itself certainly doesn't mention that.
Yes.
That being said, when you have similar things in the Bible, then they lend themselves to identifying with each other.
Okay.
Now, again, it's a total different story. Not to mention, again, uh, a classic understanding of this entire story is of this entire passage is that this didn't even really happen. Rather, it was a dream of Abraham's.
Okay.
So, if it was a dream of Abraham's, then there was no fire and there was no, what was the other thing over there? So, while the story of the pillar of fire and the pillar and this cloud in the time of the Jews, the Israelites traveling through the desert with the pillar of the cloud guiding them during the day and the pillar of fire at night. That as much let's say there are how shall I say this? The understanding that that is more of a real miracle as opposed to just somebody's dream is more clear. There's a higher chance of more people agree with that than a lot of people think that the story of the they call it the covenant of the parts in English. I think that's how they call it in Hebrew, Brit ben Habitarim. And it's really not so much a question of quantity but quality. The one of the major commentaries, if you will, on the Bible. One of the major commentators is the Rambam, Maimonides, and he says that that portion about the covenant of the parts with the fire and all and the with the birds and all that, that was a dream that Abraham had.
Yeah. Well,
Well, now what does that mean? What does that mean to me?
yeah, that's
Whether
the
it was, whether it was real or whether it was a dream doesn't make a difference to me.
what's the meaning?
It's here in the Bible, and it's clearly a cryptic passage,
Yes.
whether because of Maimonides' rules about nature and miracles, whether according to him this has to be a miracle or this can be a dream or it can be real, or it's obviously a miracle if it happened. Whatever that in this framework of our discussion, I will say it bothers me less because to read the again, like I said, the this cryptic passage, and believe me, it's much more cryptic in Hebrew than it is in English.
Yes, of
Then
course.
you have to try to scratch your head and say, okay, what does this mean to me?
Yeah.
And not really so much did it happen or not, but it was recorded here in the Bible, and this is the Bible that we have for thousands of years. This is the Bible that we believe came from Sinai through Moses, written, as it were, in the hand of God. So, why did God write down these words? What am I supposed to understand from them? Not did it really happen or didn't it happen,
Yeah.
for example.
Is there significance to the fire and the smoke going between the pieces while Abraham's asleep?
Absolutely.
Your friend Richard Booker, I think, wrote a book on this. Yeah.
Okay, so ask him
It's
for
yeah.
his answer.
So my takeaway from this book is in making covenant with Abraham, God made covenant with himself, put Abram to sleep. Abraham followed up on this with circumcision, the name change, all this stuff. So it's an unbreakable covenant in his promise to Abraham.
That is highly possible. In other words, I'm not aghast. I'm not taken aback
Yeah.
by that understanding, which means that okay, that could work. Um, yeah, the question of a this is something that you guys, the Christians, also talk about of deservingness. That's not the right word, and grace. In other words, you get grace because you're undeserving. There's not, I'm not deserving of any of this stuff. It's just God's 100% grace, right? That's a phrase that I think I hear some Christians say sometimes.
Right.
So the difference between Abraham and Noah, for example, the story of Noah, a few chapters earlier. One second. Here it is. Yes. These are, I'm reading from chapter 6. I'm sorry. Yes, chapter 6, verse 9. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous, wholesome man in his generations. With God, he went. He walked with God. So that verse frames Noah as a deserving, righteous person, ostensibly for the things that he did before he was chosen by God. Abraham, on the other hand, um, Abraham is mentioned at the end of the 10 generations following Noah in chapter 11, starting at verse 10. These are the generations of Shem. The yeah. How do you call it in English? Ham, Shem, and Japhet, something like that. Japhet,
Japheth,
and the other
Japheth,
two.
Japheth, Ham,
and
Shem, and Japheth.
Ham, who?
Ham, Shem, not
Okay,
Shem.
so it's pronounced the same way in Hebrew, believe it or not. One of the only names I think in the whole Bible, Shem. So there was Shem, and his son was Arpachshad, and then Shelach, and etc. And then we got up to Nahor, and Nahor's son was Terach, and Terach's son, it says here somewhere there was Avram. And it does, he took his nephew, he took his wife, he got married. Doesn't say anything special about that he did from it. And then all of a sudden, chapter 12, verse 1, God spoke unto Abraham.
Yes.
So it seems to be quite stark that Abraham was chosen, at least according to the simple reading of this passage in the Bible.
Yes.
He was chosen for no reason. Now, again, we only have a couple of minutes here, so I'm not going to bring down my, well, I'll just bring down for a moment
Now
my
I got
concordance. This is not the first time you've seen this book, am I right?
that's right.
So Abraham, of course, his name started out as Abram, but if we look at Abraham here, come on, get on. Oh, both, yeah. No. So Avram, which was his earlier name, seems to have about 61 instances. Virtually all of them from Genesis. But then Avraham, which for some reason, I guess that's before that, of course. Yes, Avraham is earlier than that. Where does it start? Abraham, there it is. Abraham, 160 times. So, and he, of course, is mentioned a few times after, many times sometimes in Isaiah, in Psalms, in Ezekiel. He's all over the Bible. He's quite a man, this Abraham.
Yes.
So it's quite possible, again, off the top of my head, that traditional sages in the Midrash and the mostly did find hints in the rest of Scripture that said that Abraham wasn't such an undeserving person. Not undeserving, but he wasn't. He might have been more than just nothing special before God chose him.
Yeah.
Um, the story is, I don't know if you're familiar with it, a famous story because it is told so often in kindergartens, is that Abraham's father was an idol worshiper. And not only was he a worshiper, but he was also a proprietor of an idol factory and store. And so he would sell idols. You familiar with the story?
Tell me again. Refresh my memory.
Okay. So he would sell idols. One day he had to go somewhere, and he gave Abraham, his son, the key to the store. He said, "Listen, watch the store while I'm gone." So there was hundreds of idols over there. So Abraham took a sledgehammer and destroyed all of the idols, and took the sledgehammer and put it in the hands of the biggest idol. He didn't destroy it. You following?
Oh.
So his father came back and said, "What the hell happened over here?" So Abraham said, "It's this big one. He ran amok and he destroyed all the other idols." And his son and his father said, "What are you crazy? That's impossible. It's just a piece of wood. I created it. I crafted him just yesterday." So Abraham told his father, "Let your ears hear what your mouth is saying." So
Yes.
that's
Yeah, that's
a
good.
retelling of a story that I probably first heard in kindergarten. And there are other stories like that. But obviously, that story has no hint in the Bible itself.
Yeah.
But the problem is that in kindergarten, it's all told as if it's one big mumbo jumbo, the stories and the actual text.
Yes.
So that's something that's one of my pet peeves that children aren't they aren't told this is the text and this is the stories, which are also important, but it's important to differentiate. My friend, my next meeting is coming in, and my wife also called, so I want to see if I can get back to her.
All right.
So thank you very much, and we will meet
You.
again soon, I'm sure.